Welcome, Boomer Guitar Sessions, episode 34. Today, we're going to talk about 80s guitar tech. So there are some people who are playing guitar now that the stuff that they love the most is the stuff that they grew up on in the 80s. They graduated in 87, 88 from high school. They always wanted to play that kind of music, and then this is for you people. This is for you, tribe. All right, so what we're going to talk about are the things, magic formulas, if there is any, about making 80s guitar work for you, 80s style guitar work for you, and trying to get to be able to play that kind of stuff. Now, the big thing here is that you need to understand, in my opinion, it's not just one thing. It's like a thousand little things that you can do. Some of which is equipment based. Okay, I don't have like an official 80s kind of guitar with the Floyd Rose whammy bar. I don't have one of those, but like a distorted amplifier, like a kind of a Marshall sound on your amp, you need one of those. But a lot of this is just approaches that you take to the music. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Eddie Van Halen. When I think of Eddie Van Halen, I think there's no bigger guitar player in the 1980s than Van Halen, because he changed everything for everybody. Okay. Started out on piano. He was memorizing piano stuff and is winning all these competitions. And essentially it was kind of like Suzuki. He learned Suzuki. His teacher was teaching him how to read and all that, but he didn't grasp that. He was watching what his teacher did, and he would learn all these piano technique and all that. And what he would later do is he would apply that to the guitar. Now, as he became into his teens, he listened to Clapton, and he listened to everybody. But his hero, he always said, was Eric Clapton. He sounds nothing like Eric Clapton. All right. But what I think where he went with it, it's like, this is what he did. This is his identity, his teenage years. And that was back in the 70s, early 70s, and in the day when you could probably get away with buying a six-pack of beer and going into your room and just practicing your guitar licks and guitar ideas. He was fearless. That's the thing we know about Eddie Van Halen. He would just went for it. So first thing we all want to do, and I don't know if some of that is the alcohol, because that is kind of a shocking kind of thing that when he practiced, he had a six-pack of beer with him. And I don't suggest that. Because that's going to be something you're going to have to undo at a later time. But what I'm saying is take the element of fearlessness. Just go for it. Okay. Now, if you're a boomer or a Generation X, we have another reason to go for it. We're getting old. We don't have time all day. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Okay. What we're going to talk about today is some of what the Van Halen thing did for everybody. And some of it takes more than fearlessness. It's like some of the techniques, it's not what everyone thinks it is. As I said, it's not playing normal scales fast. It's like the idea of when we walk and when we sprint, they're not the same technique. Okay, so Eddie Van Halen wasn't using walking technique when he played the guitar. He was using a sprinting technique. Okay, so I'm speaking metaphorically, but so go for it mindset. We're going to start with that. Go for it. Let's work on the things that we talk about today. Go for it right away. Get a backing track and go for it. First thing we want to talk about as far as the playing goes is his use of legato and in general use of legato in the 80s. That seems to be a very essential thing. So when we say legato, what we're talking about is hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, stuff that eliminates some of the picking. So it'd be like this. That's legato. That's all this hand. Now, not all legato is just this hand, but You bring in all the things that we learned about. You bring in this hand and work on the legato. That's going to help you in your picking hand as well. That's one of the key things that you want to take away from this video. That even your picking hand, your shreddy picking hand, if we have this together, we can add this to the mix, and it's going to make things a whole lot easier. It's not going to be as hard as you think it's going to be. So we have some. So I would take something like in a key, pick a key. That's another thing that you all got to come to grips with. We want to learn how to improvise. We want to learn how to play lead guitar. And yes, the blues scale and the minor pentatonic scale is really cool. But when Van Halen came around, whether he knew it or not, and I don't know that he did know it, but he expanded the scale. He's not just playing blues scales and pentatonic scales, though he absolutely did use those. When Van Halen came around, then guitar players started talking about modes. Okay, so the modes of the major scale, like natural minor scale, the major scale, the Lydian scale, the Mixolydian scale, Aeolian, Phrygian. These were common things that we talked about in the 80s. Okay, so with that said, that is something as well that we want to check out. We want to get, just for the sake of this lesson, we're just going to do natural minor scale. Become familiar with the E natural minor scale. Okay, so legato, that means we play mostly hammer-ons and pull-offs. All right. Next thing is getting familiar and